Welcome back, everybody, to another inspiring episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. Today's episode is August 31st, 2018. Thank you for tuning in. Today's episode, I've previously drafted up today. Today is a significant day to me as it's my birthday. I actually turned 27 today. If you didn't know my age, now you do. Also, today's episode is guest-free. I will be sharing a whole lot about myself and about my personal life's journey over the past 2 years in particular. So I'm going to go over with you guys today the most valuable lessons I learned since I turned 25. So when I turned 25, it was a big deal. I was nervous because it's a quarter century, and I also realized, Lord willing, if I do live to be in my 80s, 90s, being 25, you're closer to the age of 50 than you are to the day that you were born. If you're 25 and up, let that soak in. For those of you who are already well over 25, I digress. Reading off this post that I wrote up, I don't know why I feel a little nervous recording this. I guess because I'm going to read you a journal entry, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it a podcast episode. I was about 30% that I would as a personal reflection on my 27th birthday. So the most valuable lessons I learned since I turned 25. Live with empathy towards all. So your story matters. Your wounds, your history, your hurts, and life experiences, they all matter immensely, but don't feel entitled to a pulpit or an audience. So what I mean by that, everyone is as focused on their own life as you are yours. It's human nature. So ask for help tactfully, of course, but find a way to work through your mess without relying on others. Living with deep empathy towards others opens doors you would otherwise walk right past and be completely oblivious to. Next up, establish your values. So if you're in your 20s, this is a really turbulent decade for most of us. The mid to late 20s, ideally, is a time that you should have your values established. Don't be too hard on yourself when you feel conflicted. It's normal. You're establishing your life's values. So just be careful, as these will likely not change for the rest of your life. Next up, be confident in and stand up for what you believe in. Be confident in and stand up for what you believe in. To thrive, we need respect, not love. Well, the men typically need respect, women need love. Once I realized that other people will treat you like dirt if you don't stand up for what you believe in, regardless of if they agree with you, I stopped being so nice. In fact, I actually tell people now I'm not a nice guy, but I strive to live with kindness. That's easier said than done. It's actually quite easy to just be a nice, passive individual when things get conflicting or uncomfortable. It's actually very difficult to stand up and speak truth when it's not welcome in particular, or if somebody disagrees with you. So even if people, though, disagree with 99% of what you believe in and your values, they will almost always treat you with respect if you live in congruence and stand up for what you believe in. There's a clear difference between bullying and standing up for what you believe in. Don't take this the wrong way. What I mean is know what you stand for and be willing to publicly stand up for it. Whether it's your faith, your political beliefs, or other, you must know what you believe and why. So you must also be willing to stand up for it. This is essential to thriving. Also will boost your self-esteem immensely. This is one of my favorite lessons that I've learned over the past couple years. Step up to the plate when you hear your name called. This was a big one for me, especially as my journey into manhood. Probably towards the end of my 25th year, it hit me what it means to be a man. It's taking 100% responsibility for your life and what you allow into your life. So in regards to your life's purpose, if you feel God has whispered an idea to you that is morally and ethically sound, it is then your duty and obligation to see it out. It's not even an option. If you believe you received a clear divine message that is telling you to fulfill a wholesome mission and purpose, you need to step up when you hear your name called, so to speak. If it's time for metaphorical war, you go to war. You live in strength and act in confidence to fulfill this mission. Okay, so next up, the truth of starting this show. All right, so when I heard my name called, and I knew, okay, no more excuses, I have to step up to the plate. It was 2016. I was so scared, okay? So many fears crept in that I lost count. Ultimately, I believe 2016 wasn't the right time for me to start this podcast anyway, so I am glad I waited until June 2018 to launch it. I had a lot of healing and decompressing to go through. I had a lot of releasing I had to do in 2017 that kind of happened for me. I call that like my monk year. I was blessed with the luxury of being able to spend a lot of time alone praying, crying tears of confusion, anger, grief, and meditating and worshiping God. I needed to go through this time to come to forgiveness and releasing things from my past that didn't serve me. When I decided to launch in 2018, this podcast, I knew I could do it, and I pressed on through any fears by telling myself no more excuses. But I was so afraid inside myself that the forceful plowing through the fears actually caused a physical manifestation of that fear. I know the show is all about thriving as you strive, but if I'm honest, I went through rough waters leading up to the launch. I was doing all-nighters, I was sleeping erratically, I was eating erratically, not exactly healthy, and I started to notice something weird on my hands about a week out from the scheduled launch date. They were peeling, and I thought I had picked up a skin condition from shaking hands with a stranger or something. I wasn't sure what to think, and after a week, it kept spreading all over my hands and was peeling, and then it started like bubbling. And it didn't really itch or hurt. It was a little bit sore, but not really. It wasn't like red or oozing or anything. But I looked it up after about 3 weeks, and I found out I had developed dyshidrosis. This also known as dyshidrotic eczema or pompholyx. It's like a skin condition in which very small fluid-filled blisters appear on the palms of your hands and the side of your fingers. And because I was pressing head on and not stopping with preparing to launch the show, I was not submitting to the internal battle going on. I pretty much just ignored it. And the dyshidrosis actually is more common. When I looked it up, I found out it's more common during times of emotional and physical stress. And it often develops in medical students as they prepare for and sit for the United States medical licensing examination. So this opened my eyes to how hard this project actually was for me to launch. And after the launch, I did take a day off to have some fun outdoors and unwind. Went out to the lake, rented some paddle boards, and just had some fun. So I had to shift gears in my mind to allow that intense struggle to subside. So next up, the most successful people are usually extremely generous. This is something I really learned the last couple of years and really do believe. It's been said before, and I found it to be true. Successful people get to where they are because they are kind and generous more often than most people. So over the past 2 years, I've spoken one-on-one with over 100 multimillionaires. You're saying, Jonathan, you've only interviewed 27 guests. Well, first of all, I've interviewed far more than 27 guests. I just haven't launched all of those episodes. They're in the queue. And then also my day job, I have met many, many people who are without a doubt multimillionaires over the past 2 years. So both through my podcast and my day job, I've had the opportunity to speak with all types of financially and life wealthy people. I have noticed quite a few things about them. Of course, before going our separate ways, I strive to ask them something like, hey, if you could give a young buck like me one piece of advice, what would it be? I'm 25, 26, whatever my age was. And sometimes they would give me career advice, sometimes life advice, and sometimes a platitude. But more times than not, I'd get a sincere answer. And one thing is evident to me in these situations: these people got to where they are because they were generous and loving towards others. Are there creeps out there who got a lot of money through being harmful towards others? Sure. But most people who gain true wealth in all areas of their life, keyword all areas, it's evident that they are not creeps. Next up, don't tolerate mistreatment and set boundaries. I used to think being nice to people when they did something to hurt me was the way to maintain peace, but I found it's much more freeing to just first forgive them and then get in private and voice your frustration in a loving way to them. So yes, you have to let it go, and then you can confront them. If they respond or react immaturely, it's best to keep them at a distance until they grow up or mature to a place where they can own up to their immaturity and hold a civil conversation about it. It doesn't serve anyone. Let me repeat that. It does not serve anyone when you let people blatantly disrespect your boundaries. This only furthers the destruction they will do to others in their life, and it causes you duress in the meantime, which is straight up morally wrong. How does that serve you or anyone else in the world? It doesn't. So stand up to bullies and let them know you will check them if they choose to do wrong to you or others, especially those you love. Next thing, men, this one's for you specifically. Always push back. So when you meet other men, there will always be small social tests. Never take it personally. I learned that over the last couple years in particular. These tests are almost never meant to be personally hurtful. It's usually a friendly gesture, honestly, to see if you could make a good friend for them. So gain a level head and anticipate the tests. Be ready and even initiate teasing others. It's super uncomfortable if you've never done it. It makes you feel really bad, but just try it out. You'll find it works very well and actually may gain some great friends through it. It sounds weird. Don't attack them maliciously, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. But be willing to poke at prospective friends. So men make friendships through respect and commonality. Playing a nice guy will only get you played. You always have to push back if you expect to be treated right. I don't mean react emotionally. I mean play the game. Trust me, I hate the ideas of social games, but it's the world we live in, and you have to understand that everyone else is living by these rules. So if you want to thrive, you must be aware and adapt. Trust me, I hate it more than you. It's just a fact of life. Up until the last year, I have rejected it vehemently as I'd never wanted to play social games. But when you get pushed or tested socially, don't be self-righteous. Push back. I believe one of the biggest reasons I struggled to make and maintain friends in college was because I refused to live by this. You must be willing to diffuse tensioned moments with humor, and this can only be achieved if you first understand your worth. Next thing I learned, work hard, hustle, and prove it to yourself. If you are doing what you do to prove others wrong, then you are not living as powerfully as you could. Some of you are like, wait, what did he just say? Powerful? Yeah, I said powerfully. You have to get to a place where you don't do what you do to stick it to others. You don't buy that car to post it on Instagram. You want to get to a place where you're doing what you do to serve God and your fellow human. I'm currently doing what I do to prove to myself that I can do it and to serve God and my fellow man. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't say I've completely got past the struggle of wanting to prove myself to others, but predominantly, I don't do what I do for others. I do it for God first and foremost, and I do it for myself. Next up, one of my most favorite lessons from the past 2 to 3 years. See the green lights and run the yellows. Always run the yellow lights in your life. So I don't mean throw caution to the wind. I do mean realize the farcical nature of most metaphorical yellow lights. People will almost always throw up a yellow in your face before letting you into their life. So you have to take it on the chin, turn your head, chuckle, and come right back. You must be willing to appreciate the initial yellow and move quickly past it by pressing on. Always respect people's boundaries, but in terms of business, expect and anticipate initial rejection. People do this to see how bad you want to work with them, how much grit you have, and how level-headed you are. They may even check you at a personal level. It's a lot like tennis, actually. If you've ever played something like tennis where you're back and forth with the ball, you have to professionally return the ball to let them know you mean business. Live in love and forgiveness, but in terms of perseverance in business, never, ever, ever back down. Next up, acknowledge your mentors and supporters. One thing I always try to strive for is expressing my gratitude to you guys as the listeners. This show wouldn't exist without you. You are the show, the Heart Healthy Hustle, and everything that goes with it. So thank you. Support may enter your life from the most unexpected avenues. Remain aware of that and always express gratitude to those who support you at a real level. Never take people for granted, even if you don't see them as an asset to your life. Show love to all, always. Man, I keep wanting to preface all of these lessons with, and next up, one of my favorite lessons, but this one truly has made the most difference in my life. Over the last 3 years, I've taken multiple in-depth StrengthsFinder tests. I recommend looking heavily into the Enneagram. If you're like, what's that? Then you need to check this out, okay? If you've taken Myers-Briggs, great. That's surface level stuff. Get serious about learning yourself. Check out the Enneagram, learn. Then I recommend reading up on your numbers once you get your Enneagram numbers and taking the time to understand why you are the way you are. This can bring you immense peace to simply understand why you are how you are. For me, it changed my life. It gave me a sense of relief. It showed me I'm okay. There are many other people just like me out there, and allowed me to move forward in all areas of my life. And so to move forward in all areas of your life, you have to remain a student of life, and this means being a student of yourself as well. Check in with yourself, figure out what makes you tick and why. The Enneagram and related reading helped me understand this. Next up, man, one that really gets my blood boiling. Stop putting people on a pedestal. I believe in respecting everyone initially, okay? But I learned that no matter how high up or how well respected somebody is, never put someone on a pedestal. Everyone is a human and therefore has a human nature. For me, I learned don't pretend to be something you're not. No one, and I repeat, no one is better than you. I don't care if someone is working for an orphan charity. You don't know their heart, so don't blindly place your trust in someone or someone's cause. You have to treat everyone equally, of course, regardless of if someone is filthy rich, widely respected for spiritual or religious reasons, or famous. Don't put them on a pedestal. Just not worth it. One, it's not fair to that individual because it projects unrealistic expectations onto them. And two, it doesn't serve you to see others as better than yourself. So yeah, make sure you're staying humble. Stay humble, respect your elders, but realize no perfect person exists. There's a reason the Bible says, "Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents." And then the rest of that verse says, "And be innocent as doves." But I like that. Be wise as serpents. Remember that. Next, integrate your shadow. Some of you may know what this means, and some of you are probably like, what is that? All right, so I'm going to explain this to you. This is the only way you will speak the truth with conviction. What it means to integrate your shadow is not evil. I do not mean to welcome or invite your quote-unquote dark side. I learned I had to be honest about all parts of myself. It's basically acknowledging the fact and understanding the fact that you are imperfect. All right, you can pretend all you want that you don't have an aggressive side, but we all do. You must be willing to show your teeth when the time deems necessary. These occasions hopefully never show themselves in your life, but we all know that they do. So when they do, you have to be willing to go on offense and fight for what's morally right. You have to be willing to bristle, roar, show your teeth, and jump into an arena to fight against what is evil. This is extremely important and something specifically men in particular must be willing to integrate. The last thing I will say about this is simply, you can tell by someone's face when they have integrated their shadow. They own all parts of themselves and take responsibility for even their not so kind side and learn how to operate in a healthy way. All right, so addressing the area of romance. Stop living in fantasy land and wake up. Again, I'm not preaching at you guys. I'm sharing with you guys all of the lessons that I have learned that I believe are most of the most valuable lessons that I've learned since I've turned 25. So in terms of romance, I learned to stop worshiping it. Our culture idolizes romantic relationship as if it should be everyone's life goal. Though it is magical to fall in love, the Disney princess dream is a farce and it's a complete lie. I see so many people fall for it, men and women. There are so many unfair expectations this places on your prospective partner, and it's best to be avoided. After being in a failed 4-year relationship with marriage having been on the horizon, I learned that you can never have or be in a healthy relationship with another human if you see that relationship or person in any way as a savior. Running rampantly from person to person is also a farce. Many people think the more individuals they have sex with, the better. This simply is not true and will only blacken your soul and diminish your self-worth. It's a fact. I've spoken with multiple friends who've experienced this. It's exactly the same answer every single time. Don't learn this the hard way and delete the sleazy dating app. A healthy relationship is forged by two people coming together and knowing and acknowledging, I don't need you, but I sure do want to make this work with you. From the get, you should not extend a dating relationship that you know will never work. End it before more time passes. If you're single, do the hard thing and love all people, improve yourself, and become a person that will attract the kind of spouse you would like to one day serve. For me, as a Christian, I felt Christ's love and acceptance for me like never before in the year 2017. This broke me, okay? And his love changed my life forever. I'm enough in him. And truly knowing that has changed my life and changed how I operate, how I see the world. So if you're like me, you want to dance with somebody and you have that goal in mind. So understand though, that sooner or later, it will happen if God has that for your life, but stop idolizing it from this moment on. I challenge you, don't idolize that anymore. I promise it's not serving you. I understand it's intoxicating, but I guarantee fantasizing about your future wedding and spouse as you listen to a Maroon 5 song is not serving you and it will not serve your future partner. Also, never let your emotions be dictated by circumstances. Be strong and have at least 2 same-sex confidants that you can be real with. Don't go crying to your spouse about why they don't measure up to your expectations and fantasies. Moving forward, be honest with yourself about health. This is something that was brought to my attention more or less from a dear friend of mine. He said, I am not healthy just because I tell myself I'm healthy and I work out. And I was like, wow, boom, that hit me really hard for some reason. So just because you tell yourself I'm healthy, it doesn't mean that you are. If you really want to improve, you truly want to be your best, then hold yourself accountable. No more excuses. If you have a health struggle, don't identify with it or accept being a victim. As difficult as it is, do what you can do and realize you have the power to take some type of action. Who am I to talk about this? I actually have had experiences with numerous health concerns personally that I don't publicly share. These range from musculoskeletal deformities, autoimmune issues. I also went through over a dozen pre-med courses in college. So I'm speaking from what I have learned in my life experience so far. All right, next category, see the truth. See the truth. Most of you don't know this about me. I had a severe car accident in 2017. I totaled my car. I was going about 70 miles per hour on a rain-soaked highway. I skid across 3 lanes of traffic, crashed head-on into a dividing guardrail in the median area of the highway. My car, still being carried forward down the highway by the forward momentum, spun and bounced off the guardrail. There's a reason they call them accidents. If you've ever been in a car accident that's more than a fender bender, when your car loses control, there is this utter sense of hopeless, there is zero control in the moment of the accident. As I speak this out, my adrenaline's pumping like crazy right now. So what happened? So my car bounced back out into the traffic of the highway. This whole time, my eyes forward, looking out the windshield. I'm just seeing a spinning blur of heavy rain, widely. It was just overcast, really rainy day. Utter helplessness, and also faith coursing through my body. So I saw a truck coming full speed on the right-hand side, and as my car is rotating, I think it's clockwise. So as I spun down the highway, a full 360 back out into the lanes of traffic, this moving truck going full speed went right in front of my car, missing me by no more than 2 feet. As soon as my car stopped spinning, I used the remaining momentum of the crash to steer and roll off to the median side of the highway. And as I wobbled to a stop, I took a deep breath, assessed myself for injuries, looked at my hands, and I heard Jesus say, "I could have taken you just now, but it was not your time. Submit your pride." And I heard that as clear as day right away. And I immediately envisioned my guardian angels surrounding me in that accident and controlling the path of my accident to quite literally save my life and keep me from injury and death. I had some minor spinal injuries from whiplash, but I came out unscathed. So it's my belief that God gave me this experience to guide me. And I believe 100% that he told me clear as day, "I could have taken you." And it wasn't mean. It was like that slap on the face that sometimes we need to wake up and just see the truth. And I think he told me to wake me up from my prideful stupor. I think we all have pride, and I believe it was perhaps one of my strongholds that I was refusing to move past. Of course, he doesn't need me. God was not going to use me as effectively in my journey on earth without almost taking my life, which is his to do with as he pleases. So it took a near-death experience for me to snap out of myself and truly see. I have since prayed that God would give me his eyes and let me truly see people as Jesus sees them. And when I live from this place, it shows me the truth of others' experiences. I can see how they are actually feeling in the world, and the overwhelming empathy God puts into my heart almost crushes me on the spot. I had to humbly and wholeheartedly beg God to show me people as they are, to see reality and see the best in others. That's a big struggle for me. I grew up a pastor's kid. I've watched betrayal and disloyalty my whole entire life. And in truth, I've seen a lot of loyalty as well. But as a kid, you don't get that it's not your fault when people leave. So I always dealt with, I don't trust you. I don't like you. I'm going to find out why you're not trustworthy from the get. And that's kind of my way of looking at the world, as a broken lens. So I admit I need to work on this area much more. But even as I write this draft, tears welling up, I can truly say my life has changed after realizing I could be gone any moment. And what matters is not that I get what I pridefully feel I deserve, but that others' lives are improved and blessed by me being here. It's not about me. It never was, and it never will be. And I mean that from the core of my being. This is also why boundaries are so important. Touching back on boundaries again, it's not necessarily about cutting negative, toxic people out of your life for the sake of your comfort, although that's important. It's an issue of morality and ethics. If toxic people are keeping you from living your calling in any way, they are not only hurting you at that moment, they are hurting all the people who your life is supposed to touch in some way. Always treat others with respect and stand up for what is right. I stopped writing after all that. Writing that paragraph about the accident was exhausting, and I didn't even want to record this on my podcast today. The reason is I was done. I was tired. I said, man, it's like, 6 pages written in about 2-3 hours. I'm standing here at my desk recording this now because I tonight at 8 p.m. local time, I'm in Eastern time, my Libsyn account storage usage, it has 74 megabytes still free for my monthly quota. It doesn't roll forward or roll over, unfortunately. You just pay for 400 megabytes per month, which is what I pay for now. And I really wanted to get this episode out today, Friday, on my birthday, as a way of giving back as I turn 27. Thank you so much for your support for the show. I wanted to share these lessons. And again, this was a journal entry. I wrote it with you guys in mind, in the sense that I wanted to make sure it was understandable. I wanted to make sure it was digestible, and I wanted to make sure it was hopefully helpful to you on your journey. I think a lot of us in our 20s, later 20s, 30s, even later in life, no matter what age you are going through these things on a daily basis. And I share these with you with the hope that you will want to come back and listen to my show more, of course, but also that it would just bless your life and help your life's journey, and ultimately that you can make a positive impact. If you missed anything in this episode, go ahead and listen to it again. As I close this episode, I want to leave you guys with this. I'm ready to have the best freaking year of my entire life. 27 is going to be an epic year. To my future self, Jonathan, if you come back to this episode, maybe next year, maybe in 6 months, keep crushing it. Keep serving the Lord. Keep loving people. Be obsessed with loving people. And be obsessed with doing stuff that matters. All right, guys, so if you've had a birthday recently, happy birthday. Actually, happy birthday to my niece, Claire, whose birthday is tomorrow. So big shout out to Claire, baby Claire, turning 2. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's tomorrow. So, wow. Guys, this show, it's all about connection, legacy, and living out your purpose and making a difference. And if you're still listening, I'm honored to have you with the show, and I hope you guys have an epic weekend. I hope you have an epic week. And cheers to the future. Let's work.